this is Levi from Masculine Intuition Readings, and today I'm going to show you something that I acquired recently, and it took a while to get here, but it is the Tarot of Transformation. I saw this for the first time on someone's channel, I forgot whose, and then CandySoul and Tarot, CandySoulAndSoil, I forgot her channel name, whoops, sorry. Anyways, Candy was using it. She's gotten it from Lisa, something like that, and that really triggered me to get the set. And I knew, oh look, it's my Care Bears t-shirt. I knew what I was getting myself into. This is not a cheap tarot set. When you're in the US, it's, you know, as affordable as the next indie offering. The thing with this deck is though, when you offer it internationally, you pay $70. That does mean that shipping is included. So essentially you're paying the exact same price for the deck as the American person would, except for the fact that shipping is a bit more expensive. And for that you get the deck and the book, and the deck is not in a box. I already knew that, so I got this really neat velvet bag. It's really big. It's a makeup bag essentially, but who really cares? I think it looks really cool, really pretty, and it has, like, I don't know if you can see, it has 2 slots in there. So I will put the deck in one half of the pouch, and I will put the book in the other half of the pouch, and I will take it with me. Now what I'm going to try to do is I am going to because I've been using the deck, I'm going to sort it into its piles, and I'm going to be doing a little walkthrough for you guys. So it's not going to be a quick flip through, it's going to be quite a lengthy walkthrough, I think, to kind of show you what's the deal and what's up. Because this, like I said, to just get it out of the way, the production quality of the deck is not the greatest. The cardstock is really thin. The cardstock is Brian Froud's very Oracle thin, which means that it will probably hold up, apart from the fact that the edges are kind of weak. So I'm a riffle shuffler, and this riffle shuffles really well because, you know, like it or not, thinner cardstock riffles really well. The problem is more so in the bridge. I've noticed that once I bridge this deck a lot, sort of like, I can't show you an example of any of the cards right now, but, well, maybe a little bit. So this is one of the cards where you can kind of see that the edges are starting to scoff a little bit already. So I don't like that. So I'm thinking I might just, you know, give this a good riffle every now and then, but mostly overhand shuffle the deck and not riffle it with every use, because I do really like it. I knew what like I said, I knew what I was getting into. I knew that there wasn't a box, and I knew that the card quality was thin, although it is surfaceable. Let me see if I can show you. It comes up to here, which is normal, but it just flops a little. So it's a weird cardstock. So let me get the deck in order now that we've gotten all the technicalities out of the way, and let's dive into the magic. Yay! See you on the flippity flop. Alright, so I've sorted the deck, and here we are. And before we start, whoops, this cardstock is very smooth, by the way. I love that. I want to get into the back design, because when I first saw this on a lot of those tarot YouTubers' cameras, this just seemed like a plain purple, but there is a really cool intricate design going on the back. Just wanted to let you all know. I'm really glad that I covered the product quality and the cardstock and shit at the beginning, because I just want to focus on the gorgeous, stunning content that is presented to us here in this deck. And I'd like to begin with number 0, the Fool. Innocence or ignorance. Immediately you can see there's a lot going on. This is not as abstract as some of Scylla Conway's decks, for instance, although she's not that abstract either, but you know, you know, Depth Soul Touches, Soul cards. This is a bit more concrete, but there is a lot that kind of, you know, can pique your interest when you're looking at these cards. For example, when I'm looking at them right here live right now, the first thing that came to mind, which I hadn't seen, and I have played with this deck and I have looked at this deck extensively, but I hadn't noticed that there's actually a little Fool figure here. My eye was immediately drawn to this bigger Fool figure right there. The title obviously says Innocence or Ignorance, so all these cards have titles. I would not necessarily, you could use most as keywords or as jumping off points, but I like to refer to them as titles because sometimes they are not as clear as, for example, this one. You know, when I look at this through the camera, I see this silver lining behind these mountains, and that's kind of what's interesting to me. Like, what lies behind that mountain that is glowing so much? We need to see that, you know? So stuff like that is really cool about this deck. I do like the borders. All the borders are color-coded, so the purple ones are for the majors, obviously green for discs, red for wands, blue for cups, and yellow for swords. So I do love the way this set is presented. I know that a lot of people don't like borders. You know, I think it's really special. This is from, don't forget, this was published, I think, in 2002, something like that. So this is way before the indie craze that we've all, like, experienced the last couple of years. So yeah. But you know, I may actually try to inform Willow. I think she's just burning through her last stock right now. If she ever does a reprint, I would advise her to, you know, maybe rethink some choices, because certain techniques have changed, where it could become a bit more attractive as a borderless piece of art with, you know, the card number and title as well as the extra title at the same spot, something like that. But when we look at this content, I think it's really good looking. I think it's really pretty. Off to the Magician, the Master of Conscious Creation. I adore this. All of the artwork in here really reminds me of Waldorf school chalk paintings, chalk drawings on the board, the blackboard. Most Waldorf schools still have blackboards. And it kind of reminds me of that a little bit. I don't know which medium was used, but it's giving me that vibe. It's a very esoteric, pagan-esque vibe that I dig. There's so much going on in here. I haven't even looked at what is going on within all these bubbles. Are we seeing things in there or are we not? But the conscious creation is happening from his core, from the Magician's core, and I just love that. Then we go into the High Priestess, Feminine Mysteries, Intuitive Wisdom. Love that. It is kind of cookie cutter, but you will see a lot of keyword titles in this deck are really interesting and really like trigger you to want to read the guidebook to see what their point of view was. So that's stunning. And what I love about this one is that we see this High Priestess here. We see this cosmic swirl happening around her womb area, and she's the one lifting the veil, which I like because High Priestesses are normally very very still on their throne reading that book. This is a very active High Priestess, so that's cool. Oh, I think I must have switched the Empress and the Emperor around. Yes, I did. Okay, whoops. I'm not gonna edit that out. Like I said, the less I have to edit, the better. Yay. So here we go. The Empress, or the Earth Mother, the Queen of Life. I love this so much. We see a pregnant Empress here. We see this really intense, which we usually don't see, but I see it in here and I love it. This really intense fire energy as well as water energy. We see the fetus growing inside her. We also see the maiden, the mother, the crone aspect. And we literally see her creating, not just within her womb, also outside of her womb in the physical world. So I do love that aspect of it. And this deck has such a cute old-timey feel about it. I really wonder why. This really feels like something US Games would have published in the late 90s, early 2000s, and I wonder why that never happened. Or maybe even one of the less well-known ones, like Findhorn Press, maybe, or, you know, or those people that Bear and Co. that did, that Anubis Oracle Tarot hybrid thing that I have, which I still have to do a video about. Really seems like their shtick. But then we have the Green Man, and I love this so much. There's so much going on. Once again, we very much get that esoteric Waldorf anthroposophy. Is that how you say it? Anthroposophy? Anthroposophic style of drawing, which I really dig. And then there's so many layers here, guys. So we have the Green Man who's ruling in harmony with nature. So it's very much that positive masculine energy that is being acknowledged here, which I like a lot. But then we do get the sun and the moon juxtaposed right here. We very much have that masculine solar energy. Let's see if we had a sun image. No, in the Empress, no, but we did have that more masculine fire energy, and they're acknowledging that there's no binary in energy, and we both always have both types of energies inside of us, which is very much how I look at the way energy works in the world. So we see this man, and I thought that these antlers were coming out of him directly, but if you look closely, you can kind of see that it's this deer aura that's surrounding him. And we get all these animal friends around him as well. It's a lovely scene to look at. And honestly, I've never really had this with a deck, but I could look at this for hours. Honestly, I could, these are cards that I would use to meditate with, I think. And I rarely meditate because I hate meditation, but you know, if I were to use cards, I'd probably use these. 5 spiritual leaders taking the Hierophant off the pedestal. I love that. It's all about seeking the answers within you. You hold the key to knowledge. I haven't read the guidebook yet. It's quite a chunky guidebook, which is really cool. You don't choose your medicine chooses you. Really interesting. There's this whole dissertation on this card in the guidebook. I think the whole concept of taking the Hierophant off the pedestal is fascinating. This is, although it's a very heteronormative, but not necessarily, it's kind of blurry, so you can't really see what's going on, heteronormative type lover's card. This is the reason why I bought this deck. I used to read this comic called ElfQuest, and I recently found my favorite comic book album again that I used to have, that I lost, and then I found it in the bottom of a drawer as we were moving in and out and in and out. There's this story about it's called A Little Spot, I think, or A Little little mark, or it's about ElfQuest is a comic about elves and different races of elves living in the world. They're living in the world where there are also humans, but they rarely interact with them because they are in this liminal space. And this is about a baby. This little one-off story is about a baby that gets left in the woods because he has this wine stain around his eyes. So maybe the album is called Little Stain in English. I don't even know if it was published in English. However, the baby's left, and the elves decide to raise him as one of their own and take care of them, and everything goes well until he starts growing older and bigger, and they kind of find out that there is a difference between elves and normal human beings, and he becomes clumsier, and he can't fight and train as well, and he keeps falling out of trees. But the one thing that does benefit him is he is very handsome. Although he has his wine stain, it's a very handsome young man, and all the elf girls that are also like hitting puberty are sort of getting attracted to them, and they describe this very beautifully in the book. He ends up having sex with one of them, but as the authors say, it turns out the blood of the elves sings in higher octaves when making love than the blood of humans, which essentially causes the boy to go insane and flee the elf realm and go back into the human realm and stuff like that. It's a gorgeous story, and when I saw this text, so it wasn't even the art. When I saw this text, love in the highest octave, I was like, wow, I need to get this deck, because that is not necessarily how I read the lovers firsthand, but when you think about the concept of the lovers, that love in the highest octave, is that something that you always want? I don't want that all the time, It's not necessarily a good thing always, so I thought that was really interesting. Agent of Change for the Chariot, really gorgeous, really special. Whoops. Then we go into Justice, or as they call it, Balance, which I think is great. Restoring the Cosmic Order, really, really interesting energy. I can't wait to read more about all of these cards in the guidebook. This is just a first impressions, and I'm already 13 to 15 minutes in, so there you go. The Light of Introspection, the Crone as the Hermit. I do love that a lot. And then we get into one of the cards that is weird because the borders are different, and a lot of people online were pissed off about that, and I don't really care about it that much. It's the Wheel of Fortune flowing with change. Gorgeous card. It really is that circle of life moment, isn't it? It's just stunning. Then we head into Strength, where we kind of get this Osset Ice's representation of strength. So there's no lions in sight. I do love the usage of gods and goddesses as archetypes in tarot decks. I love that, and I feel like this one is very fitting. The Hanged Man, Not in Control, where we see this silhouette of this Hanged Man he's still there, but his spirit is sort of turning into this bird soaring towards the sun. So even though we are hanged and we're not in control, we can still control our minds and travel wherever we want to travel. So that's really cool. Grieving and Letting Go, Death, gorgeous imagery, stunning. Temperance, Integrating Polarities. I love that. Whenever we get Temperance, I see a lot of people reading it as, as what it is. Temperance is temperance. You need to be a little bit more, mindful, blah, blah, blah. No, actually, I read it usually as, depending on the situation, I read it as integrating polarities. You have your fiery side, you have your more watery side. How do we merge those together without making both these sides of you disappear? That's what you need to think about, and I think that's really interesting. The devil, separation from source. So if source is love and if source is light, the devil is the temptation that tries to take you away from the light, tries to get you to turn your back. Kali, another really apt goddess usage of goddess imagery in this deck, shattering the structure, and I like that a lot. I love to have Kali in place of the traditional tower, because that is what she does. She cuts the ego off in order for you to prosper, because that's holding you back. And I think this is a really cool representation. And once again, really digging the esoteric shamanistic artwork in this deck. Then we get the star guiding light. I'm getting winter fairy tale vibes from this. I think it's stunning imagery. Once again, all very Waldorf school reminiscent. I remember how the teachers used to draw things like this on the chalkboard. Peace in the darkness, the moon, gorgeous, stunning. There's a lot to see here, which I think is interesting. And I want to get into it more, but you know, I don't want to make videos that are hours long. The sun, the radiance of being, gorgeous. Interesting choice, a female representing figure for the sun, but you know, I dig it. I do think this is one of the weaker art pieces in this deck, but I do once again, love the title that was chosen, The Radiance of Being. And then compassion, really interesting, this one. So compassion is all about transcending judgment. And judgment is all about transcension to me. So I like that a lot. I like it a lot. What I see here is we kind of see this figure down here, sort of, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's almost like they're sort of drowning, or like they have drowned, or they've been buried in an underwater grave, something like that. But their spirit transcends death and moves on in the trees, and I adore that. And then we get the cosmos, the multi-dimensional universe, which is the world, and we see the masculine energies and the feminine energies, and the earth and the fire and the water and the air, and we see a baby down there, a fetus, and we see the sun, and we see the moon, and we see all the planets, and gorgeous. So then we head into the swords. Let's see. One of Swords is the point of origination, which I think is a really cool concept. So the point of origination, this is where the idea begun. Two of Swords, creative differences. So that's, especially in the minors, this is a really interesting deck, because this is where we get different approaches to it, and I really want to invest time into reading this book as to form an opinion on them. I honestly find tarot decks like these, Dreams of Gaia, and even the Marielle maybe a little bit, although that is very steeped in Golden Dawn tradition, although people beg to differ. I find decks like these very interesting and very valid. Three of Swords, moving toward freedom. So a lot of these minors really correspond with the way I read already. You know, to me, Three of Swords was never about heartbreak. To me, Three of Swords was about, you know, finally killing off the emotion that is holding your brilliant mind back, moving toward freedom. So I love that. Stabilizing mind, Four of Swords, once again, fits perfectly with the way I already read it. Five of Swords. Now, the fives are difficult here, because usually the fives, to me, are very much about difficult transitions, and I tie them into the Hermit. And I have noticed that most of the fives in here are not necessarily negatively interpreted, which may have something to do with the way the Hierophant is interpreted, as in taking the Hierophant off the pedestal. So I really want to sink my teeth into that. I do love this art though. I love it. Holding the vision. Okay, it's interesting. Words matter so much to me, and I really enjoy these inspiring quotes that, you know, make me think and keep me, you know, interested. Six of Swords, structures for the journey, so we're moving on, but in a structured way. Seven of Swords, Rainbow Bridge. I don't know what a rainbow bridge is. Call me ignorant, call me illiterate, but I'm going to have to read up on that. But this art did really speak to me. Yeah. It's almost like this storm is swooping in, but this woman is conjuring up this rainbow to protect themselves. I think that's really pretty. Eight of Swords, Equanimity. Interesting. Once again, a lot of these minors really fit the way I read. Some of them I'm going to have to read up on. Trust Walk for the Nine of Swords. And the Ten of Swords, leaving the story, which is interesting. The tens are about the rounding off of the suit, the ending, as well as opening up to a new beginning, and I definitely see that in here. And I really hope Willow and Jasmine at some point maybe re-release the deck with a slightly different cardstock and layout, because this art deserves to be seen more, honestly, because it's really good. The quartz are interesting. Let's see if I put them in the right order. The quartz are not page, knight, queen, king. They are server, teacher, healer, master. So the server of swords is all about cutting away illusion, which makes sense because it's earth of air, right? I don't know if this has the same exact correspondences as the Thoth, but I would like to say they do. I don't think the guidebook manages to say something about that, but that's how I usually read my quartz. Inquiring Mind, Teacher of Swords. Really, really, really interesting. So we get that knight energy, kind of, which is a way more active energy. So that's really cool. Healer of Swords, mapping the mind. So this would traditionally be the queen. Okay, so she's that sort of conniving, sounds very negative, but, you know, like, I always read the Queen of Swords as that bitch. You know, she's very much about planning it all out, if you get what I'm saying. And then the Master of Swords, he's reading the web. He is the intellectual king. Ah, so stunning. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Then we head into the discs, which, by the way, is my favorite suit in the whole deck. Usually is, and in this deck especially. It's one of discs, Birth into Form. Gorgeous art, by the way. Balance in material life, two of discs, which is once again very much how I read it. I love it. The three of discs, integrated work. Work within work within work for the highest good. I love that. A four of discs. Oh, and this is one of my favorite cards in the whole deck. We get that turtle in the water right here, manifesting home, and I love that they chose this imagery. I've spoken about this more often on my channel. When I was researching animal medicine, animal symbolism for my own decks, I found out that turtles are born from their eggs, they hatch, and then they instinctively know where they need to swim to find their home. It's an instinct they have, because hatching and homemaking happen on two different islands or coasts in the turtle world, and they just know. It's an instinct for them. So I love that symbolism. Releasing stuck energy. Now this one is kind of reminiscent of that more traditional five of discs, as in the message, but it's very much, this deck I feel very much plays towards energy rather than so-and-so's cheating on you, or hey, you're gonna be poor now, or you're gonna gain lots of money, which is how a lot of people still read, but I don't really read like that. If I want to read like that, I'm not going to use a tarot. I'm going to be using Kipper or Lenormand or another fortune-telling system. So I like this a lot, but I'm going to have a lot of fun reading up on the fives. Six of Discs, Web of Life, another one that doesn't really make sense to me. However, now that I think of it, you know, when that fly flies into the web, it falls prey to the spider. But then again, you know, sometimes those webs look pretty damn obvious, and you'd think, why is that fly even flying into it? It's that give or take, it's that circle of life, it's that food chain. Where are you on the food chain? Are you the spider? Are you the fly? Interesting. Seven of Discs, Incubation. Seven of Discs, Incubation, I love that. It's for me very much about, you know, having to wait, having to have patience in order for you to be able to claim that ownership and move forward with your work. It takes some time to incubate. Skillful Perseverance, so very much kind of standard Eight of Discs meaning, so I do love that. Instinctual Wisdom, Nine of Discs, so this is a really interesting one. I'm going to have to read up on that, but I do love it. I know that wolves are associated with wisdom. They are in my oracle deck as well, so. The Great View, 10 of Discs, I do love that. Like, we've made it. We're on top of that mountain that we were sort of climbing right here. We're on top and we've got it all, you know, we're there. So that's amazing, actually. The Server of Discs, the page is a loyal friend. I do love that as an archetype for the Page of Discs. The Teacher or the Knight is all about passionate play, which I think is interesting because very often I feel like readers as well as deck creators kind of dump the discs or pentacles, do them last, don't care about them, they're boring, everybody wants to be the Queen of Cups, everybody wants to be the Queen of Swords, everybody wants to be the Queen of Wands, you know, all those elements are really popular. The discs or pentacles seem to be always portrayed as kind of frumpy, dumb, annoying, lame. You know, we all want to ascend. All that like earthy element is not interesting. And to me, it's actually the most interesting element in the world. And I do not see that Knight of Discs as this very stagnant, kind of boring, frumpy looking knight. To me, he is all about passionate play. You know, he is, I believe he is, there we go again. I need to stop making videos about about really intense thematic knowledge when I don't have that knowledge handy right now. So I gotta stop being annoying. It is very much yeah, air. So it's air of earth. So it's an active energy, and I feel like earth, next to that groundedness, work, life, physicality, also has that sensual energy. So I love that we get passionate play with this card. I love that. Healer of Discs, healing the planet. Love that for the Queen of Pentacles. And then the Master of Discs or King of Pentacles, gracious abundance. Gorgeous. The Cups, dissolving into oneness. So that's really gorgeous. I kind of have to hurry here because I don't want this video to end up too long. Authentic connection, stunning. Receiving grace, so that's an interesting one. Really interesting one. I want to read up on that later. Untying the mask. That's really interesting for Four of Cups. And when you read it as sort of like getting your emotional self into kind of like not forcing that into a structure, but sort of stabilizing your emotional self, because the emotional self can very often be seen as irrational or annoying. when you kind of are in that place of emotional structure and stability, that's where you are safe to untie the mask and show your true color. So I love that. Five of Cups, Natural Intimacy. This is another one of my favorite cards in the deck. A really interesting 5 interpretation, and I want to read up on that more. I think it's really, really fascinating. Because none of the 5s have really been about that struggle phase within the numerological 1 to 10. So that's interesting. 6 of Cups, sharing support rather than that inner child bullshit that we keep seeing a lot. I mean, you know, read however you want, but 6s are about moving on, sharing emotional support. At least that's, sorry, I have to be politically correct. That's how I read the 6s. And everyone's reading style is valid. There, now that we got that covered. Drama Queen for the 7 of Cups. I like that a lot. So 7 of Cups, Rider-Waite Smith, we get, usually, yeah, you have to make a choice. There are so many different choices to make. They're all really interesting and cool. So stop being such a drama queen and make a decision already. Very Cancerian energy as well. Ugh. Human Doing, 8 of Cups. This is really interesting. Kind of see this baby on this conveyor belt. Normally we see the 8 of Cups as moving on, moving forward, maybe almost being pushed or forced by that conveyor belt to leave the old behind. Maybe this person is moving into the city and kind of dropping his baby kid self off the conveyor belt. Really interesting. Mental Detour, 9 of Cups. Now, this is really interesting. I would love to see what that's all about because that doesn't resonate with me yet. But, you know, this deck is something special, you guys. Joyous Flow for 10 of Cups. We're in that perfect harmony of the 10 of Cups. I love that. The Server, attending to emotional needs. Yes. Because we get Earth of Water. Remember? The Teacher of Cups, exploring the inner landscape, which is Air of Water. So that is very much that active element within the water. So that's really cool. Healer of Cups, healing the inner child. Water of Water, that motherly energy. Where the Empress is more of a sexy MILF, and the Queen of Discs is more of a mommy that brings you cookies and tea after school. The Healer of Cups is more like the mommy that you run to when you're seriously hurt and you need a serious conversation and you need some serious emotional support. So I love that. And the Master of Cups, abiding in love. And I love this illustration and I love the gender fluidity of it all. I think it's really interesting. Then we go into the Wands. This video is already way too long, but I'm having too much fun going over these. This is also kind of like me forcing myself to kind of start deck studying already, just by looking at the imagery like that. Because how often don't we get decks in and we flick through them and we're like, yeah, that's cute, I'll use it tomorrow, and we never really go in depth. And that can be, the way that deck works with you, because it's a cookie cutter kind of thing that you already kind of have in your collection. Rather, I would have every new deck that I get be a Tarot of Transformation, offering all this new interesting insight to me. So, grounding for creativity. Ace of Wands. We're about to burst. The potential is there. We're still pretty grounded. We're still very much that seed. Really good imagery. Well, there's something going on. Something's a brewing. 2 of Wands. Wands very much about sex as well. Where I feel Earth is more sensuality, Wands is more sexuality. Wands is dicks, discs is vaginas. Yeah, definitely. Healing sexual energy for the Two of Wands. I do feel like that title is kind of limiting the way you can read it. I do think it's really interesting that this aspect of the wand suit is being brought up. Because usually to the general public that, you know, just reads cards for fun or only read, you know, this cute little pocket guide on tarot and I'm a full-fledged tarot reader now and here shut up and give me my money. Give me your money because I'm the best reader ever and I will tell you when your boyfriend is coming back. They don't know that this is an aspect of the wands, so I love that. Authentic nourishment, Three of Wands. So I read the threes as being connected to the Empress very much. So for me, the threes are about nourishment, growth, expansion. So we're creatively expanding, but we do so by receiving that authentic nourishment. So I love that. The Four of Wands, opening the heart. I love this imagery. Four of Wands to me is very much that, oh, we're here, we're celebrating, we're opening the heart, we've made it. Little do we know that there's a 5 to 10 still coming. So that's interesting, that's cute. Freeing your expression, Five of Wands. Another not so negative 5. Interesting. So the 5s, I don't know if I'm going to do a follow-up video, but the 5s, I think a lot of people would be like, no, this is wrong. This is not what Arthur Edward Wade wrote in the pictorial key to the tarot, so it's wrong. To me, this is an opportunity to learn something new and incorporate that maybe into my overall reading style. So yes, I'm open to it. Inner Seeing, Six of Wands. That's actually really interesting. When we look at the wand suit from a creative standpoint, maybe the 6 would be kind of, if the 5s were that dip, well, if we were trying to free our expression, it would be very apt to, after that moment, kind of look within your creativity to kind of see which new path you would want to take. So that's really interesting and really cool. Opening to Angels, Seven of Wands. Interesting, really interesting, really cool. Dreamtime, Eight of Wands, another one I'd have to read up on. Tantric Sexuality, Nine of Wands. Okay, I'm not very big on Tantra. I don't know that much about it. So this is going to be a lot of fun reading this book. A lot of new information is going to be presented to me here, which is fun. And it's quite a chunky book, but I feel like the content is good. No Self, Ten of Wands. So usually with Swords and the Wands, the 10s are kind of where, you know, you've kind of gone past what may be good for you. So at the end of the Suit of Wands, there's no self left anymore. We've given it all to creativity and to creating art. This is a really apt card for me at the moment. And then we have the Server of Wands, who is the transmitter of a light, Earth of Fire. Really cool. Kind of where the fire begins, it always begins at the bottom and it works its way up to the top. So that's really interesting. The Teacher of Wands, which would be the Knight, represents spirit and matter. So that would be air of fire, actively bringing the creative into the physical world through action. So that's really interesting. Turning your ideas into something tangible and real that anyone can see. Really cool. Vibrational healing for the Healer of Wands. So that's really cool and really interesting. You know, because I never really associated Queen of Wands with healing. However, Water of Fire. Well, actually, yeah. Water of Fire. The Water of Fire for me is that nourishing steam, you know, that you kind of need to relax after a long day of work in the sauna and breathe that steam in and let it nourish you and replenish you so you can shed your work life and maybe enter your more creative sexual or sensual life. Interesting. And then we get the Temple of the Goddess, the Master of Wands. That's interesting. Gorgeous deck. Really long video. I've never made a video this long. I think this is a really, really, really special set. Well worth its money. Even though the quality is a little bit crappy, but I already knew that. So be warned when you order this. It's stunning. Tarot of Transformation by Willow Arlinea and Jasmine Lee Corey. This has been Levi. Thank you for watching, and bye-bye.